Now that we've resolved all of the battles, it's time to do the Japanese reinforce step. I'm going to roll a die and consult this table. If I had any submarines raiding, I would subtract 2 from the die roll for every submarine. They have 4 resupply counters due to not being able to move during the movement step. So I'm going to roll a die and add 4 to the result. So I end up with a 10. That means the Japanese get 2 ships, 2 infantry, and 2 land-based aircraft out of their reinforcements. So I take the top 2 ships and I add them to Japan. The top 2 infantry counters, also going to Japan. And the top 2 land-based aircraft, also going to Japan. This completes the Japanese reinforcement step. Next we do the Japanese repair step. I look over the entire map and I look for any Japanese counters that are on their damaged side. The only one is a Japanese infantry here in the Solomon Islands, but there are U.S. forces present, which means I cannot move it back to the reinforcement pile, so that means that there are no Japanese repairs to be done at this time. So then we go back to the sequence of play, and I do the U.S. return to port step. The first thing I do is I go to Hawaii, and I transfer the ships from the topmost return to port box to Hawaii. They'll be available for me during my next turn. I then collect all of the ships from the map and place them in the 1942 to 1945 return to port box. I then return to the sequence of play, and next I do a supply check where I make sure that all of my forces on the map can trace a supply path back to the west coast. Starting with the supplies, I need to start at the west coast and trace paths to all of my forces on the map. So I can go from the west coast all the way up to Alaska. There in supply. I can go from the west coast to Hawaii. I can go from Hawaii over to Midway. I can also go from Hawaii down to Samoa. I can go from Samoa to New Caledonia. From New Caledonia, I can trace up to the Solomon Islands, as well as over to Australia. And from Australia, I can also trace up to New Guinea. So all of my forces are in supply, so I don't suffer any reductions. I then go to the U.S. defeat check. For the 1942 campaign, if I hold 3 or fewer objectives, I immediately lose the campaign at this step. So I count up my objectives. Counting up my objectives, I hold Alaska, Midway, and Hawaii. I also hold Samoa and New Caledonia. So I hold a total of 5 objectives, so I am not replaced at this time. This completes the campaign turn. We would then go back up to the top and do it for each of the next 5 campaign turns to complete the campaign. If you have any questions, be sure to post them on our Kickstarter and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you very much for watching.